everybody. So today I wanted to put together just a short video that you can use before you practice, or you can also use this as something that maybe you do first thing in the morning if you ever wake up with a cranky low back. This is something that I do before almost every practice. If I go to a class, this is what I do before the class starts on my own mat. And I have been including it in the vinyasa classes that I have been posting. But in an interest to start to try to offer some shorter vinyasa classes, I need to trim some of these lovely, yummy extra things out. So I'm posting this as a standalone class so that if you do have a cranky low back like I do, you can use this video by itself and then move on to maybe one of the vinyasa videos. For this little snippet, you might need a blanket, and you just can roll it once over so that it's about just a couple of inches high, and then place that at the back of your mat. And that will be for your heels if when we walk to the back of the mat for malasana to stretch the low back. A lot of times in vinyasa class, we are asked to start, many teachers do this, start in child's pose. And that actually, especially if your low back is tight, is a challenging pose to be the first thing that you do if you haven't warmed up beforehand, like if you haven't done something like what I'm about to show you. And I haven't warmed up at all today. So if I come into child's pose, I don't feel like I'm settling. I feel like there's a big stretch happening in my low back that I may or may not be ready for. And if I put my head on the ground, you can see my butt kind of lifts up because my low back is tight. And yes, just being in this shape and breathing kind of eventually allows my low back to accept the situation, but it doesn't start out. It kind of starts my practice with already I'm in a battle, So I will show you what I do. So I usually start in downward facing dog. And the first down dog that I do when I get on my mat, I'll stretch really long. I will allow the shoulders to come all the way up by my ears in an effort to make as much space between my shoulders and my hip points as possible. And then I will breathe, sending the breath all the way down into the low back. A few deep breaths, and then I start to think about wrapping the outer armpits towards the floor to get a little more space across the shoulder blades. Keep pushing the floor away. Then bend your right knee deeply and feel the stretch on the right side of the low back. And then straighten the right leg and bend the left leg deeply. Really trying to find a deep crease at the hip. So don't allow the low back to round as you do this. Try to press the thigh and the low belly together as much as possible. And then go back and forth a few times like that, pushing the floor away from you with your hands. And you can always, if being in down dog for this amount of time starts to feel like it's too much for your shoulders, you can come down in between each of these little variations. So you could come down to child's pose or just set your knees on the floor for a moment to rest your shoulders here, for example. The next thing that I like to do is come up nice and high on the toes and send both heels to the right. Keep pushing the floor away from you and breathe length into the entire left side of your body, from your left pinky all the way down to the left outer hip. And then lift through center, hip, heels nice and high,
and twist the heels to the left. Pushing strongly through the right hand. Breathing space from the right pinky all the way down the right side waist to the right hip. Keep your breath nice and deep. Breathing into your back body as much as possible. And lift your heels through center. And press into one more down dog. Trying to work your heels towards the floor, pushing the back of your knees to the back of the room, and really lifting the tailbone. Then do some pelvic tilts here. So in down dog, lift your tailbone, and then tuck your tailbone. And lift, and tuck. And lift, and tuck, and lift, and tuck. Okay, lift the tailbone, lift nice and high, and start to walk your hands back to a forward fold. Now, if your hamstrings are tight, you may need a nice deep bend in your knees here. Your feet are hip distance apart or maybe a little bit wider. And just allow your head to drop. And then grab opposite elbows and actively pull your elbows towards the floor. And feel how that tractions your spine, tractions like kind of the space underneath your armpits. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, press into your heels to straighten your legs. Tip your weight more into the balls of your feet. Stretching your hamstrings now. Even deeper than in down dog. Now we'll move a little bit. So as you inhale, start to bend your knees deeper. And as you exhale, pull on your elbows and pull yourself into the forward fold. Inhale, bend your knees. Exhale, pull and straighten. Switch the crossing of your elbows, or of your forearms, I mean. And then again, inhale, bend your knees. Exhale, push your legs straight. Inhale, bend your knees. And exhale, push your legs straight. Now, try to keep your heels down the entire time that you're bending and straightening your knees. So if they start to lift when you go low, just don't go so low. This is just about teasing some more length out of the low back and the upper hamstrings. Okay, now heel toe your feet a little bit wider. Point your toes out, heels in. And this time we'll go back and forth between more of a malasana and uttanasana. So you release your elbows. Inhale, bend your knees deeply, maybe come all the way down towards a malasana. And this is where the blanket comes in handy. So if your heels are lifting here, then you can just reach back, grab your rolled up blanket and set it under your heels. Because most of the time the reason the heels are lifting is because you lack maybe the ankle dorsiflexion to get that deep into the squat. So you can do that here and keep it under your heels for the next few poses. Okay, so push and straighten the legs. Inhale, bend the knees. Push and straighten the legs. Inhale, bend the knees. Push and straighten the legs. Inhale and bend the knees. Good. Now hang out in Malasana for a little bit. If your low back is super tight and or your hips are super tight, then your butt will be higher here. And so then this is not like a relaxing stretch for your low back. If that's you, grab your block and you probably want to remove the blanket, although you don't need to. If you like having the blanket there, you can have the blanket there under your heels and you just set the block underneath your butt so that you can then work on opening the hips by placing your elbows inside your knees and pulling your prayer hands towards your sternum and then push your sternum towards your thumbs. So you can sit like this. This is a reduced load on the ankles and a reduced load on, like, you're not using all of the glutes because we're not quite in the strong part of our practice yet. We're just trying to get some ease and suppleness into the stiff low back, if that's you. So That's the modified version, or you can always come down into the full malasana. Now, staying on the block or staying nice and low in the malasana. Now cross your right arm, plant your right hand anywhere outside your right foot that you can get it. And you're gonna try to twist open. Now, if you're really stiff, you may just wanna take your opposite hand to the knee and just kind of breathe, trying to get a twist, trying to get your right sideways, kind of inside your right thigh. So you can stay here, or the twist can look like reaching overhead, which can feel really nice. Get some length through the low back here. And then the third option is lifting the left arm to the ceiling and really pushing the right tricep into the right inner knee to leverage the twist. And breathe deeply into your back body the whole time you're doing this. Good. And then come back through center and do the second side. So cross your left hand, plant it anywhere outside the left foot, and then you can take the right hand, you can push the right knee away from you. Second option is to reach the right arm overhead and pushing the left tricep into the left knee to keep that knee nice and wide as you twist to the right. Third option is opening the arms, twisting traditional style. Breathing deeply. And come back to the malasana. Take a couple breaths here. And place your fingertips on the floor. Press into your heels and straighten your legs. Parallel your feet. You can move your props out of the way. And then crawl your way back to downward facing dog. Feeling the difference now, maybe swaying a little bit. Hopefully your low back feels opened, ready to go for either your day or your practice. And now, plant your knees wide, touch your toes behind you, sit your hips back, and the most delicious child's pose ever. Crawl your hands forward on your mat, and then pull back with your hands as you send your butt closer to your heels. Get a little traction again. Take as many breaths in child's pose as you like. And then you crawl your hands back, and you're ready for seated meditation, or you're ready for your Surya A, or any other form of your practice, or maybe just ready for your day. This could be something quick that you do in the morning. You wake up, grumpy low back. And so I hope that you enjoy this as much as I enjoy doing this little series. Namaste.